start quite yet.
Well, I could offer like a few project updates and things like that.
Okay.
If you would like. I really just came to listen, and I did, if the chance arises, to discuss what was formerly known as the traffic control device request policy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
Okay, cool. I don't think that's actually on the, oh, we didn't put it on. Oh, we did.
I thought, isn't that
Agenda.
like the second thing?
Yeah, no, you're right. Yep, I put it on myself.
Great. Do you want me to prep anything to bring up on screen like that?
Yeah, if you want to bring that up.
Okay, I'll have that ready.
I think everything should be linked in the agenda.
Yeah.
I believe.
Go. So I've got that one ready and we can bring up more when we get to them. So you guys know we're unmuted and streaming. We can wait a few more minutes here, but you're all set.
Okay. All right, Gustavo? You there?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, and we don't have Paul, we know. Brian, we don't know if Brian's coming, we don't know if EJ's coming, and we don't know if Ezra's coming. Okay. So is it okay if we start, you think? All right. Sure. Okay, I will call the meeting to order, and I am acting as chair because Paul is not able to come today. So first, we're going to welcome guests and public comments. So, John Schulteis, would you like to?
Do you want me to give project updates at this point?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure, that'd be great.
So, yeah, I can, in terms of what we have in construction, Clinton Avenue is moving along. We're kind of we've kind of hit a stride with getting curb and soon to be sidewalk on the north side of Clinton Avenue. And once that's complete, we'll be shifting over to the south side. And yeah, the project's going well. We think we're still on track to have substantial completion sometime in November. Could be into December. All right, good to know. And we're doing weekly updates on that with the mayor. We know it's creating headaches for people walking. Definitely see a lot of people biking, and the nice thing is the whole street's moving at about 5 miles an hour right now. So bikes are just in traffic at this point. Yeah, so that's under construction. We also have ADA curb ramps throughout the city at I want to say about 50 to 60 locations, primarily on Cornell, as well as I think St. James is getting the other batch. Our contractor was kind of late to starting this year, but we'll see. They're under contract to complete those by the end of the year as well.
Like this, end of this year.
Yes.
So you're putting up 100 just this year?
We did about 80. How many did we did over 100 last year? This year's a little smaller. I think about 50 or 60.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll, this I think is going to become kind of an annual feature with getting this done. So.
Do you have an idea how many there are total to be done? Yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Will they ever tie into sidewalk improvements? Because I know in a lot of places there are new ramps.
Yes.
But there's no real sidewalk, so they're
Right.
kind of like they're floating out there.
I'm trying to think of how many locations are like that. In general, we're not building ramps in isolated locations. There may be a few. But by improvements, you mean there's a sidewalk there, but it's got defects or?
But yeah, that, and I can say just for one, I live on Clifton Avenue.
Yep.
And my side of Clifton Avenue, there are no sidewalks.
Okay. Yeah.
But if I literally cross the street, there's a ramp and there's a block of sidewalk and then another ramp going, at the end of the street going up to the park, but then there's no more sidewalk. So it's kind of like,
Discontinuous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know, I remember when they were putting it in, I was like, what, you know, I understood how it got there in the sense of finding out that, but it was like,
yeah,
it really didn't make any sense, because
yeah,
there's nothing to get you to it.
yeah,
And then once you get to the end of it, where do you go?
right.
Yeah, unless there's somebody right in that house, that exact house who needs it.
But even so, it's not, it's at the end of the block.
Mhm.
So the person that, you know, you're at that house and you go to the end of the block, you cross the street, but when you cross the street,
Mhm. There's nothing.
there's nothing to cross to.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, so that's been my only complaint, and I want them in, but it's like,
yeah.
are we thinking about what is happening?
Well, this probably ties into the sidewalk improvement districts, which
Yes.
I'm not really
Yeah.
as privy to, although I've heard some rumblings. Maybe you know more than me. You probably do.
Give a little bit of an update on that now if you want. I'll recap by saying, so this committee created a sidewalk improvement white paper, which went to the Common Council. The Common Council was in favor of it. I don't know that they actually approved it, but did they vote to approve it? I don't actually remember. Anyway, they were favorable. The mayor definitely identified, by the way, Lynn Ezra and EJ have joined, are just joining. So the mayor, said that he would prioritize that in 2025. He said that he would, put aside funds for it. In the meantime, the consolidated funding application for the state opened, and we wrote a grant application as part of the, New York State DEC funds. So we wrote a whole application, and then we realized that we did not qualify for it because we had previously won awards in that specific category. Those were the funds for the pedestrian bicycle master plan. But good news is we already have this grant application already written. Since then, the grants department has identified a second potential funder. I don't know which source it is at this moment, but it might be in our grants.
Emily, I'm sorry to interrupt. The agenda link in the email doesn't work. If you could just shoot me a new link.
Sure. So the grants department is actively working to prepare a second grant application.
Yeah, I think that is listed here as the ESD, which is Empire State Development Strategic Planning Feasibility Study.
Thank you.
Program number 2, City Sidewalk Improvement Project.
But even if we didn't win those awards, the mayor told me he's going to include it in his budget. So either way, I think the sidewalk district
So there would be dedicated capital funding to work on that project,
on a plan,
or
yeah.
plan for that.
So no matter what, I feel like that plan is going forward in 2025, which is
Good.
promising.
Good.
I hear John, your department and my department will be working together on that. So to be continued on
Good.
how that's organized and how we go forward.
Yeah, so, yeah, I need to learn more about it myself, but so it's a funding stream that can do spot repairs up to missing sidewalk segments.
It wouldn't be for construction, it's just for planning.
Okay,
So it's a planning grant for how to, my words,
Okay,
to
to-
finance sidewalks. It includes a parcel level assessment. So
Okay.
like the master
Each.
plan did block level, this would be assessing and then the prioritization matrix for which
Okay.
sidewalk
right,
gets approved first. Then it would include basically the white paper, but more fleshed out about what are the potential different funding options. And then specifically zooming in on the sidewalk improvement district
Yep.
option.
yep,
And how, sort of like the community preservation plan, it would sort of be like, here's how it could be organized. Here's the percentage of tax, here's what could be put on the referendum, here's the language for the referendum.
Okay.
Here are FAQ materials that you can use to educate the public. So really flesh out that potential funding option.
So that work paves the way to seek a referendum
Yes.
that would,
Hopefully solve this problem.
okay.
So maybe 2026 referendum, maybe 2027
Construction, beginning
could
construction,
be.
bidding construction.
Well, but even if we had the referendum in 2026, let's say that passes, setting up either the staff or getting into contract with a company to start improving the sidewalk may take a year or two. So nobody hold their breath.
But there is some movement.
But moving in a direction, which the city has not, I think is really. is
Heretofore, I
big.
don't think it's been doing. Okay.
Great.
I'll give one more update
Oh.
on,
The ADA program, so, is there any thought to how they're, because I think some of them that I've seen have kind of been pointing into the middle of the intersection
Yeah.
rather than having to the, so, yeah.
and I know that's a particular sensitive point, especially for low vision people. That's not the preferred, however, where there are physical constraints, sometimes it's a hole or a drainage inlet adjacent to it that doesn't allow us to do our first choice alignment. In that case, the arrangement you've described is acceptable as a second best.
Is there any, I understand why you have to go to your second choice, but I'm just curious, is there anything that would align to make sure that you get to, you know, on the opposite side of the street, it might be in the right place?
Right.
If you have impaired vision.
Yep.
Which I do, there's nothing necessarily, depending on your vision, to guide you to the right one. Is there anything, like in terms of, is it hash marks or cross marks or something, so that you would
Right.
know that maybe your crosswalk is here, but the one that you want to get to is over there? Is there something that would let you know you need to go over there?
You mean beyond the standard crosswalk markings?
Well, well, not every intersection or whatever has
Right.
crosswalk markings, so yeah, beyond that. I guess.
Well, I'll confirm what I'm about to say, but I believe I'm going to speak correctly here. Every place that we're placing ADA ramps will also get crosswalk markings.
Okay, all right.
Now, there may be a few weeks where, I think last year it was, the ramps were finishing up in the winter. The paint did not happen until the spring.
Okay,
So there was a 6-month period of time where the ramp was completed, but there was no striping yet.
okay,
But I believe, so the other variable there is that for our contract purposes, we contracted out the concrete work to the third party.
Mhm.
DPW themselves provided the striping.
okay,
And because there's now 2 parties involved,
they have to.
our ability to say, okay, DPW, go paint this, like next week, I can't direct them with that level of specificity. And if they prefer, DPW, when they do their striping, waits for enough weather in the spring and staff availability and things like that can make that take a while.
And that's why I like having both departments underneath. Just
Yeah.
we can coordinate, seriously, I understand what you're saying, but yeah, as long as
Yeah.
right now I know that it's going to happen, I don't mind communicating that it will happen.
Yeah.
But that is a concern.
Okay. Absolutely, yeah. So our standard for crosswalk markings has been the high emphasis crosswalk style, which I think is the easiest to
Yeah.
see,
Yes,
so.
okay, good. That's good to know, thank you.
But I was going to offer an update on the project and design as well. Well, one more thing that's under construction is, you may have noticed the rail trail is closed here. They're painting the bridge over 9W.
Right?
Yeah, the state's doing that. So they have the rail trail detoured up. I don't know how long that's going to last. I can try to make some inquiries. But in, design project, I'm gonna be updating, Engage Kingston for the, Flatbush Foxhall project. Perhaps as soon as tomorrow. That'll contain a public-friendly graphic as well as, typical section views for Flatbush and Foxhall. This will be obviously going out to the public, so well, there's a couple of controversial things we're probably looking to do. One is the closure of the Cornell connection to Foxhall, which was done on a test basis in August. So if you tried to travel through that intersection, you probably saw the barrels that were in place for a period of time. So the results of that test, obviously it made some people unhappy, but we didn't see any operational problems that would suggest we can't do it permanently. So that is depicted on the plan, as well as the current five-way intersection of Flatbush, Foxhall, and Elmendorf is going to disconnect the Elmendorf connection to make that a more standard four-way intersection.
I just wanted to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So this road,
No, on the right hand,
So you wouldn't be able to
This
take.
correct. That'll be, that big sea of asphalt will become a sea of green.
and there'll be kind of a divider
Yeah,
here, right?
yes.
Yep.
And there'll be a pedestrian connection through the green space.
Nice.
So you could take a left onto South Manor.
Correct. You'll have to.
You'd have
Be
to.
the only movement there. Yep. And what that'll do, we know that the crash rate at that intersection is very, very high.
Yep.
And it also will free up more space to make even better railroad crossing arms.
Okay.
Pedestrian shelters, you see?
Yes, pedestrian shelters are part of the plan. So
Fabulous.
Good.
if you're walking, you'll have
Nice.
Yeah, that'd be great.
a shelter to wait while the train goes by. And
Would the bus also?
use those as bus stops. I'm going from memory here. There are not, I believe there are not fixed bus stops on Foxhall that we accommodate. I'll double check on that. But the pedestrian waiting stations probably would not be good to double as a bus stop based on where they are. It wouldn't be good for the bus to stop there so close to the railroad tracks.
We might make traffic stop.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, we don't, I understand that. I used to live on Tejan, and I know the bus stops right before then, which is all weeds and kind of nasty
Okay.
and whatever. But I was just wondering whether or not the bus is still gonna stop in that area, whether there would be
Sure.
a shelter.
Yeah. I understand with the buses, they're operating on flag down and basis now, in addition to fixed stops.
Yeah, which is amazing, but, either way, you're still out there in the rain and snow.
So that project is in design. We're going to be advancing to right-of-way acquisition stage, which will take all of next year. So with some luck, we could get to construction in 2026, but I think 2027 is more likely.
So where are you doing the right-of-way acquisition?
There's about a dozen isolated properties. Some of them are corner clips where we're straightening out strange angles. Others are just a linear strip of a couple feet across an isolated property. But those owners will be individually contacted.
And that was true for Broadway, if I recall, and it took a really long time. It's a really difficult process.
Yes, when federal aid's involved, it's very careful how you acquire right of way.
And like for like
Yeah.
a few feet.
Yeah, a piece the size of this table, you know, it only costs $500, but it takes months and months.
Yeah.
So, but we're, you know, just to be, we're not acquiring anybody's house or anything like that. It's undeveloped portions of yards. So that's, there's probably other things, but that's a big part of it.
Okay, thank you. Is that
Thank you.
anything else? Okay, great. All right. Any questions? Zoom people? Okay, great. So let's continue on. Draft website updates.
Those are done.
Those are done.
So that, remember, we made a Google Doc, those have been
Those
implemented.
have all been done. Okay.
I can bring it up on the screen if you'd like, if you want to go there. I would just recommend maybe this council review it every yearly or something, to guide new guidance they'd like to put up or any trainings they want to promote. But, it's updated now. I think Ezra gave me, your bio, so that's been updated. I think I still don't have a few people's, so.
You know what I was thinking? It'd be nice to have, I like to-do lists, so it would be nice to have like a to-do list where we have, you know, like that, looking at the website and, you know, going to common council meetings or whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know if there's some way to do that, or we could just have a Google Doc with that stuff on it.
Yeah, I don't know if you, I mean, updating the website is kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
So I don't know if you want to do that here. This is also very kind of public and official. In the additional resources, just so you do know, we have the old reports and stuff, which is sort of like old to-do lists. Things council could do is review what it said it was going to do. That might be a great point, and update that, and then you could add in, you know, y'all could do an action plan or some kind of a
yeah,
thing for the future.
okay.
Oh, Elizabeth, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I was just looking at the draft website page. The section where reference material is.
Well, I've updated the website now, so, do you have edits to it? Because could we look at the web?
No,
page?
actually, what I was going to suggest is we don't have a link, that we have like the words and the link highlighted. You did that. I see that now. So
Oh, great.
yeah, in the draft, you have the actual link instead of like the words, and you click on it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So I just wanted to make sure you did that. That's perfect. Never mind. Yeah, got it. Looks great. Yep. Thanks.
Cool.
Okay, great. So we can go on to draft resolution for request of traffic control devices, which Emily can bring up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think, so the current version is in black, in black text, and then the red text is proposed changes, and then there's a couple green that, the red is the proposed changes that were submitted to the Public Safety Committee, and the green are changes that were made after we submitted it, that I think Paul did, so.
And purple. I think Paul's are purple, mine are green.
Oh,
I
okay,
think the red is what you submitted.
Yeah.
Right?
okay,
And then the green and purple are track changes, or, yeah, suggested changes.
suggested changes,
Yeah.
okay, great. Yeah, so basically this kind of came up, I was talking to, I'm blanking on her name right now, the Alderwoman, Michelle Hirsch, yeah, so we're talking to Michelle Hirsch, and she was talking about, kind of updating this, so these were just some ideas I had, and then we've kind of expounded on them. Basically, the traffic control, it was a resolution from, I believe, 2019. And it's kind of a way of formalizing when the public wants to request, usually either like a sign or something having to do with parking, which I imagine would be like, handicap parking spots on the street, things like that. And,
Isn't it also stop signs?
yeah, signs of, yeah.
Stop signs
Yeah.
are the most important.
Stop sign, well, people love stop signs, people love to request stop signs. But, so basically what this adds is, talking about street design elements is another thing that people can request. And then it kind of lays out, kind of what traffic control devices and street design elements and parking controls are, kind of giving examples of those. And then it loops in the Complete Streets Advisory Council, which was not part of the original resolution at all. And then it adds part A, the engineering analysis must conform to the requirements. We just added the City of Kingston street design standards. And I thought I actually added that the Kingston zoning code as well, which the street design standards are part of the zoning code, but I don't know, maybe we could make it like a little bit more specific in that way. I think that's it, and then just also kind of removing there in the original resolution, there's a form that you fill out, and there were just a place to kind of write your comment, but there's also like these check boxes for things that you're requesting, and I just recommend that we just get rid of the form and just have people kind of like write their own explanation, because I think that a lot of times people have a certain result that they're looking for, and they're requesting a certain thing that may or may not be the best choice for getting that result. So anyway, so those are my thoughts, and anyone else have anything to add?
Sean, is there any clarification you want to give on the process? I imagine, because when this came up, I even asked you, like, is this actually what's
What we
happening?
do,
Is this
yeah.
what we do? Like, it says in here, like, a number will be issued, like, somebody actually issued. I just can't imagine anyone's issued.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what this is trying to do. I'm thinking back to the history of why the original resolution was passed. And it was primarily it was primarily to prevent abuse of stop signs.
Because they're just
Which-
moving everywhere, right?
Right, I mean, so many aldermen will tell you
They need to stop.
they want a stop sign at this location. And it's probably 5 or more a year times that this comes up, specifically for stop signs. And in that case, usually there's an email written by me that says it's warranted or it's not warranted.
And
And
when you say warranted, that's a specific qualifications, right? Not just your opinion, right? Or
Right.
or is that making of streetlights? Is that very different?
no, a warrant is pretty objective. I wouldn't say perfectly objective, but it's more objective than subjective. So a stop sign, when it was primarily stop signs, I felt comfortable with that. It's defensible. It's objective, right? I think, and then the other thing is just a stop sign has almost no cost, right? So, the other element, this taking a more expansive view, I think has to be viewed also in a, in a constrained budget environment too, like, how is this gonna be? So, the yellow highlighted things there all cost, from hundreds of dollars up to millions of dollars, depending on what you do and where you do them. So I mean, if,
What's the proliferation of stop signs mainly for more slowing traffic and traffic calming? So it was their way of having a means to an end of how do I slow traffic on my street?
right, which I'm continually reminding the aldermen, like, it's not appropriate.
It's not the purpose of the
No.
stop sign. So now that the speed limit has dropped, do you think that will change?
I don't think that will change, no. I could be wrong, but I don't think posting at 25 versus 30,
It's gonna change.
so often it's just a perception. A lot of times what people are really mad about is volume on their street,
Mhm.
and if anything, the stop sign can make it worse.
It could.
Noise.
Right, and more congestion.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know this is trying to be comprehensive, which I appreciate. The other thing is just to bring it back to the code. So within our chapter 390 of our code, right, there's the categories of regulatory devices. So each stop sign, each traffic signal, each yield sign, each school zone, all of those are found in chapter 390. Things like roundabouts or bike lanes are not found there. So just in terms of like what the resolution is going to produce, like when we add or delete a stop sign, we're modifying a specific, go to Article 13. You'll see them all. So, no, on the right side, Emily. At the bottom, yeah. So for example, if I want to know, I actually had a guy call me today, said, so if you want to know where are the stop signs legislated in the city, they're all right here at
In that particular session.
Schedule 9, individually named. So anytime we want to make a change,
You gotta go back.
you go here and do it, right?
Well,
So-
the common council has to approve it, right? Is that what-
Correct, that's, the common council has to pass a resolution to alter this. So, several years ago, we went through and removed a bunch of traffic signals. That's a legislated item. No parking is legislated,
Wait, so can I go back? So in the draft, you're saying that all those different options that have been listed are not regulated?
Right, like,
Is that what you're saying?
yeah, in other words, if you went to the council and said, I want a mini roundabout at the corner of Hasbrook and O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Right, as a thing you could ask, there's no category in here to
To give you that.
to do that.
In the code?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. Or if I wanted the other big one that's not in here,
But wait, but the city, if the city did a redesign project, we could consider it. So what is it being in the code? It means there isn't a process for it?
well, ultimately it comes down to, can you be ticketed for it? So let's say I just went up and put up a stop sign because I wanted one,
Okay,
and people ran through it. They can't actually be issued a ticket unless it's listed here.
so if someone misused the roundabout, they can't get
Right.
in trouble for
So-
misusing it.
Because there's no legislative backup that says that you're supposed to obey that particular.
Oh, that's
Right.
fascinating.
Yeah, right. So I had a guy call me today, he got a ticket for going too fast in the school zone. And he called me and he said, what are the limits of the school zone? So I went in and it's Donovan to Elizabeth Street on Washington Avenue.
You got to go outside.
Well, that's what he was trying to figure out, is if he was within the,
Okay,
Oh, Lord.
but is our cycle track in the code? And if it's not, does that mean if a car drove down it, they couldn't be ticketed?
So that might actually be a matter of state law.
Because it's state law.
Yeah, so state law for, designated cycle lanes. Cannot operate a motor vehicle in bicycle lane. I think that's a state, I think that's a state law.
Yeah. Okay, but so if someone used the roundabout in the wrong direction,
Mhm.
that's not, because, or what,
Probably also state law.
okay, so.
But to go back, I don't know where you have your tabs yet on that.
Yeah.
Some of those highlighted devices, it's like, okay, you're asking the council to pass a resolution to create it should be aligned to,
Curb acceptance.
yeah, those are nowhere to be found in the code.
So, but then what does that mean, Dr. Bell? So that means that.
Well.
Yeah.
So, in part what it means is that staff, DPW, could go construct some of these things, like, or change the lane width on Broadway from 11 to 10. Because it doesn't appear in our code, that they can do it without council action.
But it could not be enforced by the police, if I'm understanding you correctly, because it's not listed anywhere.
Well, yeah, I think I've gone off the rails a little bit here.
I mean, it just sounds like there's an odd juxtaposition, like, well,
This is fascinating, but yeah, maybe we're going down a road that we like.
You're going down.
Yeah, so, and you'll know, like, so, a good example, simple example, in the MUTCD, there's a category of regulatory signs that start with an R. Like a stop sign is an R1-1. It's another category, they're typically white background with black letters. Those are regulatory.
Okay.
There's another category of W signs, warning signs. They're typically yellow background,
okay, right.
black text. So like when it's a yellow, when it looks like that and it says curve ahead, 25 miles an hour.
It's warning you that.
It's a warning. It's not a law,
Right.
right? So,
But a 25-mile-an-hour road sign that's white with black lettering is a law.
correct.
Hmm.
And a red stop sign
Yeah.
is simply, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So when you see a yield with red and white, that's a stop. I mean, just saying.
Yeah. There's a special category for yields and stops that use red. They're really the only two signs typically that use red on white, but they're regulatory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but I think the point, I don't know the point you're trying to make, but in terms of this, to this process, if someone requested a curb extension, could that go through this process? Or?
Well, I wonder if it should, so this might be a question for the mayor. Do you even want to go to the common council at that point, or is it at the staff level? So for example, we're going to do,
Got it.
and some of this is
It's administrative.
the power of staff to make detailed decisions, like I'm gonna go, you've got a design, you've got 1,000 decisions, I'm not going to the council for each one.
No, but if you were to do a curb extension, or bulb out, or whatever you want to
Yep.
call it.
Yep,
And the staff decides that it's a good idea,
right,
all right?
right,
It may not be what you want to do. And that's where I see the problem coming, because curb or bulb outs or
Yep.
curb extensions might sound good, but they're not good in every situation. So who's gonna be the judge of whether that makes sense or not? Like, okay, if you're plowing the street and you've got a bulb out, you don't necessarily wanna have, you don't want that there. But from a pedestrian-
yeah.
But from a pedestrian point
Right.
of view, you do, so who rules that?
I don't have a clear answer to that. I mean, most of the recent projects we've done, I mean, contain those kinds of compromises. That's why when you go on Henry Street, the bump outs are painted red. not curb.
That's the compromise, the paint.
Well, wasn't that partly also because it's really expensive to move the water infrastructure?
I would say snow plowing is,
Is tantamount
Is
before you go
huge.
there, yes.
yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
On just these things.
Yeah.
I have a question though, so there are some, bump outs on Wall Street.
Yep.
How do they do those?
A lot of that is, in uptown, in that part of uptown, they have to practice a lot more snow removal than just plowing. Because there's so little snow storage. So they go in with a front end loader and dump trucks and
And truck it out,
truck it out.
or they hand remove it, yeah. Yeah, which quite honestly, from the labor and the public works, you don't wanna have to do all.
For the whole section or just?
On
the-
heavy snow.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say last year, I'm not sure it ever happened. But once, you know, on a typical winter, that might happen 1 to 3 times, maybe.
When I was public works in New Haven and Hartford, that happened, and you don't. In New Haven, we had a dedicated crew whose job was to do what we called smaller, that kind of hand work, and to do certain curb outs, but you can't, depending on the budget and your department, and then,
Right.
you can't, it's not something you can always,
I mean,
and you can't sustain it all the time, you know? Because the biggest thing is clearing out the arterials, and that's with the plow.
I'll say one more thing, and that is like, I think the kind of discussion we're having here right now is really valuable in a group like this. I personally don't like having that kind of conversation though in a room full of the aldermen. In a committee meeting, and definitely not in a full meeting of the common council. Like, I think if you look at this types of street improvements we've done, I mean, so much of it has been staff discretion rather than, oh, the alderman passed a resolution adopting a specific typical section for Broadway. We in general would not get into that with the elected officials. They would authorize, okay, here's your bond for $6 million, go do a project from here to here. That's, you know, about the level that the alderman as a body would typically get involved in. I think that you know, in a group like this, those discussions are very valuable. Like what we just said, you know, should we have a painted bump out or a curb bump out or you know, neither, you know, like I personally though, to try to, I'll call it design that in a meeting of 6 aldermen, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And, you know, the common council could decide otherwise, say, no, we really do want to be involved in, on a granular level, but that would be different to how we've been operating.
This is a point of information for me. Do the aldermen here have staff people that sit in for them? Because citizens would end it, and that's where a lot of this kind of discussion could be held. at
Sure.
staff, with their
I
staff,
will say,
to bring that up to
Yeah.
them, yes.
so, you know, the aldermen run the gamut in terms of how interested they are in this issue. I've definitely had some come to me and sit in my office for half an hour or an hour. Here's my list of problems. What can you do at each of these locations? That's a useful meeting. And I have others who I really don't think, you know, they have other issues they're interested in. Streets may not be one of them.
well, I guess my, my thought is, you know, I think the main thing is, the two things are, number one, just, you know, is someone's issue the speeding? Is it not stopping for people? Like, can we define what the issue is? And maybe, you know, they're saying a stop sign, but maybe there's something
Right.
else we can do, and maybe we could do a tactical approach to it. And then the other thing was just to have the complete street just more looped in on just what's going on, you know, people are asking for and stuff. So, so I'm open to, thoughts about how we could.
Yeah, well, I know I haven't often attended these meetings, but I'm coming to the conclusion that I need to do that, much more often, so I will be here.
I think you're welcome.
Great, thank you.
That's good.
So right now, if someone is upset about their street, they go to their alderperson. The alderperson then forwards that to the mayor? And then it sort of makes its way to you? Is that-
It can go, the alderman can simply put in a communication, say, I want a stop sign at this corner.
But I
It
guess,
goes to the committee.
but I guess to Elle's point about like,
That's what it,
you know, it does seem to me that there could be a process for like, how would a community member say, I think this is unsafe,
right.
I'd like it to be looked at?
Yeah, the best route is through the alderman, because the alderman can put in the communication then.
Yeah.
So when that happens, then, the president, Schott will ask me to comment on it.
And then that's already happened,
Yes,
right?
so
That's already
In terms of
happened.
quote engineering analysis that's referenced in there, that's how we've been doing that.
Yeah.
Do you usually get more after there's been an incident as opposed to being proactive?
Trying to think of one where there was like an actual crash that we're responding to. I can't think of one, but very often what we hear is, you know, there's a lot of almost crashes at this location, which unfortunately is hard to, you can't quantify it, right? You know, but, I would say, I mean, the crash statistics are useful, so for example, the decision to disconnect Cornell at Foxhall. It's kind of a big deal, right? But it's applying general principles. This intersection is at a crazy angle and it's way, way too close to the railroad crossing. Any, you know, conventional wisdom would be disconnected if you can. And, you know, so what's the analysis there? Well, you could collect the crash rate, which we did. You could look at some alternatives, but I think ultimately it's kind of a clear-cut case. That's one where I could see the alderman maybe stepping in and say, oh, this is really important to keep, you know, trucks off of O'Neill. Right? How do you, then it's
But
a,
are you proposing an alternate truck route so that would be?
that becomes the de facto truck route, unfortunately.
Because Henry Street is an official truck route, right? So, and we've seen trucks trying to turn there and like
Yeah.
stuck.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, so at the state level, there's what's called the truck book, which came out of the 1980 something Surface Transportation Improvement Act, where the states have to provide access for 53-foot tractor trailers on certain routes. And so you can look up New York State truck book and it has every route by which we have to accommodate these largest trucks.
Wow.
Cornell Street is one.
Huh.
So that's the one wrinkle we're,
Working on, to
Yes.
try to figure out how that works.
and it comes about sometimes by a business owner, it could have been 30 years ago. Request says, I need to get 53-foot trucks to my facility.
Right.
And the state has to vent that out.
But if that business is no longer there.
Right, yeah, there's no,
Then
yeah,
there's no,
Yeah.
then there's no call for it at that
Yeah,
point in time.
yeah.
It can go away.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, because I saw that Hudson changed a truck route a few years ago.
Okay.
So,
It can be done, yeah. So yeah, I know that was kind of, that's just sort of and I don't know how that translates into edits to this document, what you want to do, but I was just thinking the history, like this shell of a document really goes back to inappropriate stop signs. And now it's, you know, I understand what the council's trying to do here with expanding the scope of it. I just want to understand and appreciate you listening to my thoughts on it.
I just wanted to say one more thing. So like, I know Word Street just came
Yes.
up and that was
Yes,
maybe why
yes,
this all came up, but, you know, I think there's, you know, there's the crashes, which can be quantified, then there's the near crashes, which can't, and then there's also the idea of, you know, kids are walking to school, or maybe, you know, potentially, maybe they're not walking to school because their parents don't think it's safe. So it's kind of like that accessibility section of, you know, is there, you know, because we look at like, what's the traffic and we determine things based on the traffic, but like, is it possible that traffic could be different if it were different, if we're different design?
understand.
So I don't know if there, so that's just something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dynamic situation, so, for example, you know, currently, Golden Hill at Boulevard. We're working, the developer there is putting in 160 housing units. And in addition, you have Western County buses, you have the Golden Hill Nursing. Had a long history of complaints on Glen Street from cut-through traffic. So the solution there is, you know, Glen Street was gated off for emergency only. All traffic is now going to Golden Hill at Boulevard, and we're getting a new traffic signal at that location. So there's no one size fits all, you know, and that situation I just described, it results from several years of discussions with county, the developer, you know, obviously the residents on Glen Street. So it's definitely a dynamic thing with it, you know, any given location can change.
Just to wrap so Ellie or Michelle has submitted this to the council, so it'll be discussed at the, I don't know which committee it is, but you said the date. And I know a few,
Public
Complete Streets-
safety, September 25th.
few Complete Streets folks are gonna be there.
Well, public safety's tonight. Is it on the thing for tonight?
September 25th, it's tonight? I don't know.
Ellie, you seemed pretty clear that it was that date. Was that because you looked up Michelle had told you it was maybe that date, or?
I think I looked it up on the website.
Oh, okay.
And maybe she told me to, I don't know, but yeah, okay.
Tonight is
I guess
finance.
Just check.
Oh,
Just
finance.
to
I'm
clarify
sorry,
that.
finance.
Okay.
Tonight is finance. Rules and laws and rules is the 18th.
Yeah, okay, you're right, 25th.
Okay.
So it'll go then, okay. I have to be at that meeting anyway for some other things.
You're gonna be there even longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for putting finance tonight, okay, good. I have to be there too.
Great.
Shall we move on?
Let's see.
We got a lot, well,
Yeah.
we got a lot of old business that we may or may not need to get to today, so.
I'm gonna show the agenda on the screen.
Let's see, I just saw that Gustavo is not here, but he said. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought he said. It wasn't working.
Complete Streets, Policy Evaluation Subcommittee, just a quick update.
Yeah.
So I did create a draft, and I've started to share it internally with John and the mayor. We need to look at it a lot more before I'm ready to share it with you all.
Okay.
So, I got excited there for a moment, but we gotta think through it internally before I'm ready to share it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where that is.
Okay, so then you'll kind of share it with us and then we'll give our comments on it and our edits or whatever, okay.
I'm happy if you wanna keep it on the agenda, and I can keep giving you updates, but in this moment, I do not feel like it will be anytime soon. Just to be very clear about that.
Okay, all right, not anytime soon, okay. Next, we have Jansen Ave, so actually, Paul put this on the agenda, and he was talking about us doing a field trip to look at it. He was also wanting to measure it, but maybe you already know, do you know offhand the width of Jansen?
I did about a month ago,
Okay.
when I drafted the striping plan. Let's see, it's roughly 24 feet wide
Okay.
on average. I believe is what we got there. It might be more like 26. It varies a little. Yeah.
So we were kind of we were looking at the different cross sections that are in the code and kind of
Yeah.
thinking like what would be
Well,
applicable.
it does sort of raise the question of, and I think this was a question within the document we were just looking at, is does a simple repaving project, what level of review does that trigger?
Right.
So the city paves probably 10 to 12 streets a year. And in most cases, it's just a replacement in kind, right? There's no change to the width, or cross-section or anything. With Jansen, we recognized an opportunity to try something innovative there. I think it's pretty unique. I don't see using that same approach on any other city street, actually.
Like you wouldn't recommend it for another street?
There's none I can think of right now. Yeah.
Oh, but when I was on the way it is, it seems to be okay. I guess what is the problem or concern?
Well, I think from what I've seen, number one, so we have kind of a middle lane that's kind of right in the middle that the cars are supposed to go down. And then there's there's one advisory bike lane on either side. And then, so it's supposed to be so the bikes go in the bike lane and then the cars go down the middle, but if there's two cars coming towards each other, then they're supposed to kind of go to the side and go past each
And the
other.
problem with that is,
Number one, I think that the advisory bike lane is in the door zone, actually on both sides. It's in the door zone, so when people are opening their car door and coming out of their car, that could create an obstacle to somebody traveling in that bike lane.
In those specific parking spots.
Yeah, because so there were, the parking in the parking lot was different before. It used to all be like, they're backing out. And now it's parallel parking. And the other thing is that people just park, I don't remember people parking there before, but people are parking, maybe just because there's more activity in those,
Could be
it's
an
standard, people are parking in that advisory bike lane, so.
So that's interesting to me because Lucas Ave has a similar striping and now part of Broadway has a similar striping.
Right edge
So it's two lane, but that there is that sort of advisory shoulder, or correct me if that's the right language. But on Lucas Ave, it is parking.
Correct.
How is it marked differently on Jansen?
Jansen has no parking with the exception of those 4 spaces, parallel spaces.
And it's signed that way?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the difference. So then it's enforcement.
okay, so if it's just the 4 spaces that can be enforced. I guess what I'm trying, I think it's great that we're trying something different and I definitely encourage staff to think outside the box and try different things, but at least when I was on it, I really just don't see how it is such an impediment for either bicyclists or the drivers that, it needs a redesign. I'm really just trying to get there because I don't, and I guess maybe from a pedestrian point of view, because I'm certainly not gonna be riding a bike there. It works.
Do you mean like the current way, the new way?
The new way
Yeah.
works, yeah, so I'm trying to understand what are we trying to change?
Well, it's, first of all, it's only paint, so people can kind of go wherever they want. I think that, well, I guess the reason this was done this way is because it's part of the green line, right?
Yeah, I mean, my thinking going into it is it's relatively low.
It's a small street, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Low
it's a
volume.
small side street.
It's 600 feet long or something.
Right.
It is part of the thing. Yeah, I mean, I know when I bike to City Hall, I go that way. I see a lot, I see almost as many bicycles on that street as cars. Yeah, so just to be clear, so it's not an advisory bike lane, it's just advisory shoulders. If we had actually put bicycle symbols or signs, then the state law would create a conflict, because when there's two vehicles opposing, they both have to go into a bike lane, which wouldn't be allowed, so. And just a little subtle detail, we did put again, a W sign, two-way traffic at each end. So I did have some calls of people like completely confused of how they're supposed to drive. Is it one way? What is it? Those calls, I think, have slowed down. I think people have kind of gotten used to it. We did this roughly 3 months ago-ish.
Well, I guess my thought is just that, I would just like to see traffic calming, more kind of traffic calming, there, and, narrowing the lanes in terms of, more in terms of like physical things instead of just paint, and, it could even be a one-way for cars, and two-way for bikes or things like that.
Was there a reason it wasn't a one-way?
Was there a reason? Well,
Maybe traffic flow around the Kingston Standard, like, or Burger King?
That was briefly considered. I'm trying to remember all the reasons we didn't, but.
For the length of this street, I don't,
Yeah.
and I definitely have to put on my old public works hat. I really just don't understand why it's such a problem. I don't see why it needs anything more than the paint. It seems to work. If you live in small towns with narrow streets, it works, yes. If a car is coming on one way, one has to stop, the cars have to go around, the bikes have to go around. I guess I really just don't see the level of angst that it seems to be causing, because it's such a small street.
Yeah.
If this was if this was a really long street, but if I'm on a plow, and when you are a public works director in the Northeast, plowing is the first thing you think about 4 seasons a year. I don't want to see anything in the street that's going to cause a bigger problem. So, I'm not opposed to possibly a different solution, but right now, I just don't see why we're agonizing over this one little street.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I do also want to say with the public works, I understand that it makes it creates more work for public works to have, whatever kind of obstacle in the street. But I also think, like, is there a way to kind of think proactively about it? And maybe we have to say, hey, we need to hire more people
Well,
in that situation.
that would be great if you could hire more
That would
people.
be, that's the kind of thing where it's like, it's not necessarily up to us we're not the ones who are making the budget and deciding how much to pay to hire people, so if the common council feels like that is a priority to do, they
But-
could potentially do that.
But as an advisory, I feel as an advisory council committee, whatever it is, we are advisory. And therefore, we have to sometimes step back a little bit and realize, okay, maybe this is not exactly what you want, but we certainly can't put monkey wrenches in front of everything because I don't know, trying to get to the perfect is gonna make it harder. And to me, this street is fine. And I just think that we're really in this quagmire over this street when there are other things that I feel are far more important, like getting to a real walkable sidewalk city. And while, yes, I want bicyclists and everybody else to be fine and safe, I just can't get behind any more of this. I really can't. The street is fine. And until something major drastically wrong happens, I just don't see why we're spending time on it. I really don't. I've tried to understand it, but to me, it is like the street is wide enough, you can drive down it, it has dedicated parking spaces, and if you lived in the country on a country road, it might be wider than what you're gonna get anyway. So I just don't get it. So that's my opinion.
I mean, I think unfortunately, Paul and Gustavo aren't here, because I think I've heard both of them pretty vocally. So it'd be nice for them to be in this part of this conversation.
Yeah, I think it comes down to safety and accessibility, and especially since this is part of the Green Line, it's part of the Empire State Trail, right? So we, and obviously there's a bunch of streets that are not ideal. But, part of the Green Line, a lot of the Green Line is great, little kids, I've gone with my niece, my nephew, on the Green Line and they can bike safely, but there's other parts of the Green Line that are not accessible for, that many people in the community wouldn't feel safe biking on. So I think that, we want to create a situation where it's accessible for more people. Obviously, not everyone can bike. So I totally get that, but there's a portion of the population that is excluded or feels excluded.
Well, I
with the
feel
current
excluded if
situation.
all we do is worry about bikes and we don't worry about sidewalks.
Yeah,
And quite honestly, the energy that goes along making everything accessible for bikes, sometimes I just feel that we lose the energy in other places. And it's not that I don't want bicyclists to be safe, that's not it at all. I just think that this is just, it's one of many issues, and if the whole purpose is to design Jansen to be perfect, then I'd rather spend my time on something else.
I hear you. Yeah, I think it's all important, but I think sidewalks are very
Well,
transit.
I'm definitely open, this is a unique treatment to the city, maybe even unique to New York. Probably not, but, so the other alternative, make Jansen one way and install two-way bicycles would also be unique to the city. We don't have that arrangement anywhere else. I'm not aware, feel free to provide me with reference if you can find it, of simply making a street one way, what it does to slow traffic, or reduce volumes. I'm actually thinking from everything I've seen and read, it simply taking a street and making it a one-way street does not reduce speeds and could increase them.
I agree, yeah.
So I ruled out that alternative and went with the advisory shoulders. We could, we didn't collect operating speeds or volumes before the project. So it's kind of anecdotal. I've ridden a bike and walked on the street myself. I think it's an improvement. The other, in a perfect world, yeah, we'd get curbs and sidewalks
There's not enough room.
on it, but, again, this, if you think about how it was before, all we've done is simply pave 24 or 26 feet wide and install this striping, so. It was, I think, I'm personally pretty proud of it. But we took a little risk there too. because it's
It's
unusual.
different.
Yes.
And sometimes when things are different, it takes a little bit longer to get used to. But I think it's fine.
So you think, so bikes are intended to go down the middle? Or are they supposed to kind of go on the
Well,
side?
I guess the state law is that you can ride, you can use the entire lane in New York, right? If you wish, you're supposed to ride as far right as practicable, but, you can always use the full lane when you prefer. The striped shoulder is about 5 to 6 feet wide, which aligns, like the early bike lane, I think, is 5 feet wide. Broadway cycle track is 8 feet total for 2 ways. So what I've observed with cyclists is they tend to ride to the right, in that, to the right of the right white line.
All right, can we move on? Okay, sidewalk finance task force. We already kind of talked about this, common council moving forward with funding request, any updates? So we weren't sure if the common council was moving forward at this point.
I don't know if we need to,
Yeah,
I can't technically remember, like, if, I don't,
Okay.
I don't know if they did any, I can't recall if they did any official action. That's what I
Okay.
can't remember.
so let me.
But the project is moving forward.
The project is moving forward, whether or not the
Yeah.
council
I mean,
has input. All right. Okay, we have the draft shared e-bicycle resolution. Do you mind pulling that up? So, I don't know if does anyone have any feedback on that?
is this, is this what Bob has already, had already brought to the common council? Is this different?
I don't know.
My memory was that Bob brought something very similar to this to the common council, and they were mixed about it. And it
Okay.
didn't go anywhere. And I thought that I
Okay.
had heard him say he was gonna try again sometime.
Okay.
Is this enough, is this part of, like, is this that? Is
I
there
don't
more to the
know.
story than what I know?
I think this might have been something that Paul added, it doesn't say, but I didn't add it and you didn't add it, so
No.
I don't know. Did anyone else
This
add?
looks like what was said previously.
Okay,
Like, what is the giveaway to me is that there's this grammatical error there
oh yeah,
that's been there.
okay, so, and this is old business too, so I'm not really,
I don't think that we have any updates on that right now.
okay, so we don't have any updates. Grant applications update.
The link in this, agenda is actually from last month, because we didn't have a meeting. I have updated hard copy here, and I can send out the link to the updated document that, the grants department
Okay, I think I
sent
got
to
one.
today. Yeah.
Thank you.
So there's nothing, I haven't even really read through it, there's nothing that I was gonna draw your attention to. This is just the ongoing agenda item where I, asked the grants department for a transportation grant update. And it's a, a little bit, folks here wanted to know a little bit more updates about what grants we were applying for. And so it's basically Ruth Ann's grants report, but just transportation. I can't speak to much more than that. Okay, actually, maybe I can. I can draw attention to, I think what, I don't know if it's been talked about here, because I think it's happened in the last 2 months. They're working on a 9W feasibility study grant. I think Bartek initiated that.
I'm familiar with it a little bit, yeah.
And so that's new, that was for a road guy.
Reconnecting community.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting
That's
to
great,
kind of
yeah.
to know about.
I think we might have already sent a letter, we were going to.
I think there's a letter of support already.
Okay.
Okay. And then just today, I sent to Ella and Paul a request for an updated sidewalks letter of support. So you'll see that next time you're in your inbox.
Okay.
I'm sorry, are we on number D, grant applications, or we moved to a different?
Yep,
Grant application.
Okay, great, thanks, sorry.
that's just a minor, admin thing there is a new letter of support being asked for the sidewalk. That I mentioned earlier.
Okay. Great, what is the Midtown pedestrian crossing and park, is that?
That's the rail overpass to the YMCA property.
Oh,
on Great Hill. Which the update I heard is they've got the consultant under contract and have started talks with the railroad. And they looked at the alternative of tunneling under at grade crossing or overpass. Apparently only the overpass is considered feasible.
So that would end up behind the YMCA?
Yeah, it's sort of where the farm project is.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, there's a little bit of the Green Hills cycle track, and there's a little bit of a house. It's not a housing complex, but there's sort of buildings right there. I believe it's sort of where those two properties can connect with the train track in the middle.
Okay, cool. And what's the wayfinding plan?
Is it the Green Line wayfinding plan? Where is that?
It says wayfind under current project, it says wayfinding plan.
There's two parts to that. There's your part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then, or there's the city one.
right.
Oh, this is probably, it just says wayfinding, so that's probably the city wayfinding plan. I think Keith and Natalie are doing some work on.
Yep. So these are like decorative signs that, some of them are gonna say Midtown and it's 15 feet high and beautiful. We're doing the word Kingston in the center of the roundabout, things like that.
And these were part of a wayfinding planning study that the county did. I'm fairly certain, I think it's on the county's pages. And then the city, was able to use some ARPA funds to implement just a few of them. And then I think they called them the gateways.
Dozen, 15 signs, yeah.
There's a whole plan with many other signs, but there isn't funding for that.
It's just like
Okay.
gateways into different neighborhoods in the
Yep.
city. Are they gonna be arches or stones, or they haven't decided?
They're different ones, so the 15-foot high in Midtown are like, custom laser cut aluminum box letters, you know, on a spire.
Okay,
We have some graphics in my office, and there might be a page on Engage Kingston for this, I'm not sure.
There's definitely one on the county, if it's true to what the original plan was.
Yeah, but yeah, it's, that's an upcoming, bid, probably in, the next.
in an attempt to give each neighborhood a kind of its identity.
Yeah, how to get from downtown to uptown, big picture, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Sounds good.
it would be cool if they, there was someone that said like, welcome to Kingston, drive carefully, or something like that, or a place where we drive carefully. Something like
That
that.
assumes that nobody in Kingston drives carefully.
Yeah. Well,
No, so really be careful about the wording.
Well, that's why I said it's a place where
Oh,
we
yeah.
drive carefully, like,
You got the graphics there.
this is what we do.
So the rest of you,
Yeah.
unsafe drivers, stay out.
It gives you an example of what they're gonna look like there on the screen. So. Like I know the Midtown one is in the current contract. Where'd you go? I'm sure you found these.
So will it only be like in one part? So like if you're coming from another part of the city, you might see it, say, because in some places they've been in like maybe two different parts of that particular neighborhood. So, one on one side.
These big upright ones, I think, are only gonna be like one to a neighborhood. So the Midtown one, where Henry and Broadway intersect, there's that,
Right.
well, not where the clock is, but the other quadrant.
Uh-huh. So that would be where that.
I believe so, yeah.
Cool. That would be cool to see those.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, next we have school zone program. Paul has drafted an updated letter, which is in the agenda to submit to the mayor, and a vote is to be conducted, but we only have 4 of us right now, so. maybe we should-
When you had Gustavo, you definitely did have
Yeah, we could have done it with Gustavo.
4, 5, 6, 7. No, I think if you only have 7, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Well,
5, 6, 7, then you only need.
if the 4 of us vote yes, then
Right.
it would work, right?
Right, but you have a quorum with 4 of you.
We have 4, okay.
Yep.
So you need a motion?
Do you wanna, do you mind pulling up the letter? Does anyone have any questions about the letter? Ezra, EJ, Claudette?
I remember looking at this.
Yeah, this is.
We are, so separate from this particular letter, we are, this is on my to-do list, standardizing, and I've already produced a plan for, George Washington and, Washington Avenue. And, consideration signage.
Just a little editing comment, Emily. The second for consideration, can we have a paragraph break above it? Perfect. Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
The bicycle in lane. There's specific guidelines for using those signs, and I'm not sure how I'm not aware that a school zone makes those in any way, should make those in any way mandatory. Also, the crosswalks with shark's teeth, those have been misused at a few places around the city. The shark teeth are only supposed to be used where it's more than 2 lane. Perhaps it might even be a multi-lane crosswalk. In other words, 4 or more through lanes. Just some comments there. If you want, I could come up with the MUTCD reference on those. The no idling is already a law in the city, throughout the city at all times.
Mhm. Are there any signs up for that? Or I feel like people need to hear it again, probably, like, or maybe it could also be something where the administration kind of sends out,
Yeah.
a flyer or something.
Some of these things that are just restating state law, don't block driveways, don't block side roads. One thing I try to avoid is sign clutter, so
Mhm.
simply putting those up
And then you get the person who says, well, it's hot.
Yeah.
And my air conditioning is on, so I'm trying to stay cool in my
Right,
island.
yeah.
Then you get there's all kinds of things. I used to take the keys out of my guys' trucks when I would just go, okay. And they would always kind of laugh because they'd say, they say, "Who's the director?" It's like, okay, I'll keep telling you, don't do it, so.
Yeah. And this also kind of gets back to we would love to see just less kids being driven to school in general, so.
Yep.
We were talking, well, actually, the climate action plan, whatever it is, one of the goals is actually to increase high school students using the bus to get to school. So, um, so something that could be brought up again.
Sorry, I have a question. John, you're saying that the do not block driveways and the not, was it no idling? You think those are state laws, so you suggest not to have signs?
No idling is a city law.
Okay,
The do not block driveways, I mean, we don't post those at every location around the city. There's only a handful where we've done that, you know, where, yeah.
so we should take no idling out, you suggest?
I think it's duplicative. Is that a
Okay.
word?
Maybe, yeah,
That works for me. Yeah.
could be kind of, like I was saying, maybe we could, instead of making signs, we could just ask, I don't know, maybe the school board or something to have some kind of initiative to just educate parents on this periodically.
They could send a letter, but unless somebody's going to be monitoring it every day, nobody's going to, I mean,
Right, yeah, or they could have, we could have monitors, they could have monitors every once in a while, I don't know how realistic that is, but.
I suggest taking it out if it's a state law. I don't think that we need to put it in.
One thing we noted, and this council probably is aware, this goes back to the city code we were looking at. Not all schools have school zones legislated,
Mhm.
and not all can. So for example, Kingston High School cannot.
On Broadway.
Yeah, high schools in general, it's, the school zones are limited to kids, I want to say, like, it's middle school and younger. Yeah,
And is that state?
yes.
So it's like to 10 or 12 years
I want
old.
to say grade 8,
Grade,
but
okay,
don't quote me on that.
okay.
Wait, so school zones are not around a high school?
Correct,
Oh,
Even on the side street?
that's correct.
what is their reasoning for that? That they'll be driving?
If I had to guess, it's that younger children are more likely to behave unpredictably in traffic.
So-
That like a teenager would not run out to the street.
And they're shorter too, they're a little harder to see. I don't know.
I guess that just makes no sense.
Probably. That's fine.
Oh, one other thing, I don't think it's written there, but, you know, like on Washington Avenue, there's a sign for when the school zone starts.
Yes.
And stuff. Yeah,
That's what the guy told me, that
Yeah.
couple,
Yeah, yeah.
we got a speeding ticket, we're fixing that.
okay,
You
great.
know, outside of this, even before I saw this letter, I drew up the signage plan for that.
Okay. So should we kind of, maybe we should come back to this, I feel like maybe we should table this for now and potentially,
Make it.
or do you mind making a note on there, EJ, that we wanna consider taking that out, that no idling out?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the Google Docs has changed where you can find some settings.
Can you do like right click?
Yeah, I'm trying to do a strike through, but they've moved it. I use this all the time, but they've moved it. It used to be. I'll find it and I'll do it later. We don't need to wait time.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't know where they put it anymore. Okay.
So, yeah, this might be something we could like do an email chain about. Okay, so I think we're out of time. So,
Oh, I have, an announcement that I would really like.
okay, please,
All
yeah.
right, my fall pedestrian bike count is going. I didn't get a chance to put the link to the volunteer sign up in the document that I posted, but it is in the Google document. And I will send out another email to remind people if anyone's available. New this fall is a much simpler count form. If I've scared anyone away because of how complicated the previous one is, please understand. I don't know if you can see it, so we're not gonna do an intersection count, it's a tally. So that's new, and then anyone who is not city staff can get a $25 gift card per county session. So please consider helping me out. September 25th, 26th, 27th, and trainings will be that Monday before at 5 p.m. at Rough Draft and noon on the Tuesday before on Zoom. And then, of course, I can meet, if anyone's interested, I will meet them whenever they can meet to train them. So I will make it as easy as possible if they want to help out. My second announcement is the New York Bicycling Coalition came out with new electric bike and e-scooter handouts. The thing that John's holding is a bike laws little pamphlet. This is a new edition of one that I've handed out for a while now. So they made a new edition of sort of a bike law, carry along with you. And I have e-scooter, e-bicycle posters, if anybody wants to see them and put them up somewhere. I'll put one up here at City Hall, I just haven't gotten the team, and I haven't asked Lisa if I may. But I have some materials here to distribute.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
I move the meeting be adjourned. Is that where we are?
a second.
That's where you are.
No, it just said, I got the feeling you were trying to get there, so.
I'm teasing you.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with it, it's no problem.
No, I'm teasing you. It's okay.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Thanks, Tom, for coming.
Glad to be here.
Please come back.
I will. Yeah, you didn't kill me, as you promised.
And you never kill staff.